Hello, 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 and welcome to Friday Night Insight, where we have clear eyes, full hearts, and can't lose. Just had to throw that in there for you, Jason. How's it going tonight?
Absolutely love it. That's a great way to start. And yes, I absolutely enjoyed every second of that show and the movie. I still think the show's better because, man, those are some awesome actors. But I'm more excited the fact that we just have had so many great football games already. And I'm just ready to get started talking about it and do start sit.
We have had some pretty great games already, including last night. But before we get to that, we'll get to at Donald McJordan, Jordan McDonald. How's it going, my friend?
I'm doing well, Jack and Jason. I noticed that in the intro, I think I'm wearing the same shirt as I am right now, which would make sense considering I only own like 3 T-shirts. So, I can tell you, like, the apparel is reused, but the analysis is not.
I wouldn't go that far either.
Lizzie McGuire, you are an outfit repeater.
Yeah, what can I say?
It's okay, Jordan. We forgive you. But I don't know if the New York Giants can forgive the Washington football team. Washington wins 30-29. Taylor Heineken drew the start with Fitzmagic sidelined. He's out at least 6 weeks with a hip subluxation. So he comes in, has himself a day. Now, he did have an interception that was disappointing, but he completes 73.9% of his 46 attempts, 336 yards with 2 touchdowns, one of which goes to Terry McLaurin, and he just had a beautiful day. 14 targets, 11 receptions, 107 yards, and the aforementioned score. Heineke just locked completely in on Scary Terry, which meant Logan Thomas kind of suffered 5 of 7 for 45 yards. Adam Humphrey, he catches all 7 of his targets for 44 yards, so it doesn't really matter either. And the other touchdown goes to Ricky Seals-Jones, which doesn't really help anyone. So that kind of was annoying.
Yeah, the Ricky Seals-Jones touchdown, a little bit of a vulture from Logan Thomas. It was a very nice catch, though. Like, don't get me wrong, that was a beautiful back of the end zone catch, 2-tapper. But you forgot one player, and I'm sure that Jason will be a little ticked off. They missed him. It was Dyami Brown. Only went 3 for 6 and 34 yards. So, I mean, we were talking about what other receivers will be relevant, with Samuel out. And he hasn't really stepped up yet. I told you don't sleep on Adam Humphries. I mean, 7 for 7. You can't really ask for better efficiency there.
Yeah, but that was also thinking that Fitzpatrick would be the quarterback. Now that Heineke's more of a conservative player, it's going to be Humphries, and you clearly saw it because, man, he had plenty of targets and definitely was able to pull him in. So it's hard not to love him because he's one of those players that you just don't really expect to be good, but subtly comes in and just steals the show like he did last year in Tennessee. Stealing it from Corey Davis was awesome when he was playing, but just my thoughts on it.
I don't get the Adam Humphries love at all. Anyways, moving to the backfield, we've got fantasy managers with a bit of a headache thanks to Antonio Gibson. So he has 13 carries to J.D. McKissic's 4, but they split the routes run right down the middle, absolute 50-50 at 24 and 23 each. And McKissic ends up getting 6 targets, 5 receptions, and 83 yards to just 2 receptions on 2 targets for Antonio Gibson, and he just gets 4 yards. So is now the time to panic on Antonio Gibson officially in a committee, or is there still hope that Antonio Gibson is a bell cow?
I think both can be true about being their committee and not having to panic about Antonio Gibson. He did still lead the team in carries by wide margin with 13, while McKissic only had 4, and that was tied with Heineke. It kind of looks like what it was last year. They have Gibson run through the tackles, and they have McKissic as the dump off option. And I'm sure with Heineke, McKissic's PPR usage will be a lot better. Like Jason said, he's very conservative, so maybe a lot of dump off passes, which we might not have seen with Fitzpatrick. So I think, like what Jason said, it probably has to do with the quarterback of how this running back or backfield will look going forward.
Yeah, and I'm going to be kind of selfish here because I own Antonio Gibson, and this is so frustrating because, Rivera comes out and says, hey, he's going to be a CMC type. We're going to use him. doesn't happen. And all the important situation, McKissick comes in. He's the one who, okay, granted, Gibson asked to come out in the only goal line touchdown score, which is so frustrating because of the fact that, yeah, you're tired, get in the end zone, and then you can rest. I don't understand why you get pulled there. Or just even get used more in the passing game. I understand that McKissick is a very good pass catcher and a very good pass blocker, but if you want to get better at it, you should put him in to see if he can do it. If you don't trust him, that's one thing. But if you're in all the 2-minute drills and everything else, Gibson isn't being used. It's McKissick, and it's so frustrating. And that will be a terrifying thing if Heinicke isn't up. I mean, or the Washington football team isn't up as a whole. So as a person who rosters Gibson, it's extremely frustrating. Even though he does have all the targets or all the real carries in the backfield, he has that majority locked down.
Yeah, it's going to be one that we have to follow for the rest of the season. But we do have a question from Josu Gomez. Should I trade Drake? I'm assuming Kenyon Drake, maybe the rapper Drake. I don't know. Don't trade him. Certified Lover Boy was fire, so we don't want to trade him. Anyways, Kenyon Drake and either Chase Claypool or Laviska Shenault for AJ Brown or Cooper Kupp. Or does he go after Keenan Allen? So I say yes to all of these trades. If you can get AJ Brown, Cooper Kupp, or Keenan Allen for Chase Claypool and Kenyon Drake, or Kenyon Drake and Laviska Shenault, do it immediately. Run, don't walk, because that is fantastic value getting a premier wide receiver.
Yeah, I can kind of agree. I'm not that high on Kupp. I do understand that he looked really good in that. I don't like Kupp. Woods is such a better receiver. It drives me insane. Because he's so much more versatile. And that's something that I don't see with Kupp. It drives me crazy.
It doesn't matter.
He's so underappreciated.
In love with him.
But I do understand AJ Brown. It's one of those people that you can probably buy at a lower cost right now because Tannehill really sucked last week with the new OC. And that makes me a little nervous. And he also has Julio there, which people are going to accept as somebody who will likely be the one who takes away his targets. He's probably not. And I absolutely love Allen, if you can't tell. I mean, I would do that all day, especially since he was actually only getting targets toward the end of the game. Super frustrating to see Williams dominate the first half, but oh well.
You are so welcome, Josu.
Yeah, I'll just say that if you can get one of those guys for like that package, I want to join your league. If that's like if somebody's selling low by week 2, then
well, Claypool I can kind of understand just because of the fact that
I'm talking about AJ Brown /Kupp / Keenan Allen.
Well, if you're hurting at RB, that could be a good package for you.
All right. Should I start James Robinson or Leonard Fournette? Who are we going with in this game? Fournette has the Falcons, Uncle Len, Lombardi Len, or are we going with James Robinson and Urban Meyer's backfield?
Well, I mean, Urban Meyer's backfield after week 1, I don't want anything to do with. I mean, we have that later in the show we talk about, and I've already expressed how much I love Leonard Fournette, so that's where I'm going. I'll say Fournette.
Yeah, I agree. It's Fournette for me. I do actually think that Jones has a good game. I really think that both running backs will have a pretty good game just because I don't see Atlanta stopping Tampa Bay in any way, shape, or form. But we'll get to that later.
Well, you know what the craziest thing is on those final 2 drives when the Jaguars are still in catch-up mode, the game wasn't out of reach. Carlos Hyde played 53% of the snaps, and that's not what you want. You don't want to be losing those high importance touches, that 2-minute drill, to Carlos freaking Hyde. So yeah, I go with Lombardi Len, MVP of the Super Bowl. Let's go. All right, I guess we can finally get back to the Giants, and we will keep answering your questions as they come along. But in the meantime, Daniel Jones was indefensible on the read option. He ends up leading the Giants in rushing, runs 7 times, 95 yards with a touchdown. Had a second touchdown called back, which was unfortunate because CJ Board did not need to hold on that play. But anyways, I don't want to get too upset about it. Danny Dimes then adds another 249 yards with a 33-yard touchdown through the air to Darius Slayton. Completes an impressive 68.8% of his targets too, mostly Sterling Shepard. So Shepard comes away with 10 targets to Kenny Galladay's 8 targets. Sterling Shepard catches 9 balls compared to Kenny Galladay's 3 balls. And Sterling Shepard finishes with 94 yards, which was almost 3 times what Kenny Galladay did. And then we already talked about how Darius Slayton caught that touchdown, gets 3 receptions on 6 targets, 54 yards. So he beats Kenny Galladay too, and he drops a second touchdown. So Darius Slayton was this close to a phenomenal game. So the Giants spent a first rounder on Kadarius Toney, who was a healthy scratch, and then they spent $72 million getting Kenny Galladay to come to New York. Is he already being phased out of the offense? Is Sterling Shepard the wide receiver 1?
Jason, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I think if you saw anything I put on TikTok this week, I love Shepard. Okay. I really think, especially right now, he is the one that Jones is going to. They have the familiarity with each other. It's been a huge just advantage for him because the fact that he's catching, well, at this game, he caught 90% of the targets that went his way. That's going to be very impressive and will help with any numbers. It's more than likely going to get you double digits every week because don't know if you know this, but the Giants are not good on defense. So they're able to do okay against the run, but anything outside of that, they're just in trouble. As you saw, McLaurin just tear them up. So with that in mind, I really like Shepard. He is one of those players that isn't that fancy, and I'm really frustrated that Galladay isn't getting more involved and isn't doing the big things that he saw that you are used to seeing him as a Lion, granted, and with Stafford. But it's just one of those things that you have to keep in mind. And another big game, if you can trade him right now for something hot, I mean, somebody who's down, like, for example, an A.J. Brown, you package like a Kenyon Drake or somebody like that, you might actually be able to get that trade done because people are saying, oh, wow, he's getting double digits every week.
Yeah, I have another question.
Oh, no, you can go ahead.
You sure? Okay.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to make a joke and say that it seems like Galladay leads the league in sideline arguments with their quarterback. As we saw late in the fourth quarter. But you know what? Galladay even said before the season began that it's going to be slow. It's going to be a slow start for, I think he said the whole offense, not just him, but I think he meant himself. So, yeah, he's a new addition. He was banged up coming into this year, and then he got banged up in training camp with a hamstring, I think it was. So I think you need to be a little patient with Kenny Galladay. He dropped like so far down when drafting began that you probably got him at a good discount that you don't need to rely on him every week. So yeah, I'd keep him on your bench. You never know. Like we saw Daniel Jones, like my goodness, Daniel Jones, like where did this come from? We all like wrote him off and like suddenly he like put up a massive stat line, especially with the rushing yards. My goodness. And like we all were like, oh, it's Jalen Hurts. No, it's Daniel Jones. No, I'm kidding. I love Jalen Hurts. But yeah, Daniel Jones is making a name for himself in the fantasy community because I'm sure that he'll be picked up a lot come next week.
Yeah, and I really think that's going to be matchup based. That's something that you want to pay attention to because
Washington supposedly has a good defense. That's all I'll say.
Yeah,
and
but
he's
rushing.
Targets. He got 8 targets too, though. Kenny Galladay got 8 targets. That's important. The receptions will come. You can't blame him for being frustrated when it's a downgrade from Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, another thing though is if, and I don't think Jack will agree, if Toney can make his way into the offense and when Ingram comes back, will the targets drop for not just Galladay but for Shepard too?
No, if anything, it's going to be to Slayton. I think will be where it actually gets his targets from, and it's all an issue to me because I think Galladay should be the clear one, but it's going to take time, as you say, to build that rapport with Jones that already has it with Shepard, which is why he's succeeding so much right now, and is a great time to try and sell him if you can. And looking at the start sit real quick, for me, this is Gaskin, and it's not close. I know that Shark got a bunch of targets, but the fact that Gaskin's going to give you that solid baseline is something that you definitely want in this week, especially because you don't know where anything else is going to go.
Yeah, completely agree, especially with the Jaguars facing off against the Broncos. He's going to be matched up with sometimes it's going to be the Alabama cornerback, Patrick Surtain. Sometimes it's going to be the Bears' former cornerback, Kyle Fuller. Like, it's not going to be easy sledding for Courtland Sutton. So I'm going to go as well with the safety of Myles Gaskin because he's got a 6 target floor as well as about a 15 carry floor. So yeah, go with the bell cow running back. I think that's going to be a theme of the show. I typically go with a potential bell cow running back over a fringier wide receiver. Jordan?
Yep. No, all across the board. I agree with Gaskin. Just for the reasons you said, we don't really know what we're going to expect from Jacksonville. And Denver's got a pretty good secondary, so I can't see Trevor Lawrence playing that well, and all of his receivers will suffer, and that includes Chark.
Yeah, I completely agree there. So we'll finish things up real quick with the Giants here. Saquon Barkley, he's looking pretty good. And, the stat line wasn't good. He only has 57 yards on 13 carries, but he breaks off a 41-yarder, which he looked healthy on. And you can't be too upset that he didn't perform against the Washington football team. They're legit good on defense, but Barkley looked healthy. He played about 86% of the snaps. He got all of the receiving work. When Saquon Barkley faces the Atlanta Falcons next week and the Dallas Cowboys the week after, we won't remember that we were worried about Saquon Barkley. So do not give up on him just yet.
Yeah, and as Jordan said, this offense is going to start off slow. I mean, he's coming back from an injury. He's been worked in, and I think that next week he's finally going to have a decent enough matchup that he's going to really have a decent week and a good game, which he's excited to have, I'm sure. And I'm sure you'll see him celebrating like crazy next week because he's just going to be able to pull it off and hopefully get more involved in that offense again.
Yeah, it is a step in the right direction for sure. And I'm glad that we can finally put the Devontae Booker fears to bed, because we were all thinking, is he going to have some role? Because Saquon's at limited capacity, only had 2 carries and 1 reception. And I think we should be worrying about Daniel Jones being the vulture, because, Daniel Jones had 95 rushing yards to Saquon's 57. So that's the real vulture we should be worried about.
Danny Dimes, Danny Wheels, we love to see it unless you have Saquon Barkley on your roster. But we're already having some injury issues at tight end, according to Scott Laframboise. Should I drop Jonnu Smith and pick up Gerald Everett or Jared Cook? So I think I'm going to continue to roll with Jonnu Smith. I do like him quite a bit. But in this scenario, Everett's the only one I would even consider. I'm not dropping Jonnu Smith for Jared Cook. I do like the Chargers offense, but it's a consolidated target share between Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, whereas it's a little bit more open in Seattle. I don't know. I'm still going with Jonnu.
I think Jonnu's definitely the guy for season long, but if you're looking for this week, I want all of the Dallas and Chargers game as possible. I want all of it. So if I can play Cook this week, I am doing it. Nice cat.
Yeah, we have a great white Leo.
Yeah,
we're all good.
I honestly, with these 3 tight ends, I kind of have in the same tier. I would have Smith a little bit higher. I would hold on to Smith just for now, because I know that the Cowboys Chargers game is a little enticing, but there's no guarantee that Cook will score or will have a good output. I would hold that. That's just me. But if you're going to pick one of them up, it would be Cook. Everett, we'll see. He had a touchdown last week against the Colts, but we can't guarantee that'll happen every week.
Yeah, and I really like Cook just this week. I don't think season long, because Parham's still there, and I still like him more.
Well,
don't get me wrong there.
Jason's homer side is showing, so
Yeah,
he's right. He's right at though that Cook does have a good matchup, but no Darryl Parham. Don't pick up Darryl Parham.
And Jonnu Smith did see a carry last week against the Dolphins, so he really is taking that tight end role there. But not the flex tight end, the old Aaron Hernandez role.
They were doing that in with Tennessee too. He had a lot of goal line carries, and I think he actually scored a rushing touchdown last year.
Do you guys think James Robinson will get back to what he did last year? I think if the world was just, he would, because Travis Etienne is out, and so naturally he should be a bell cow. However, I think Urban Meyer is a grifter. I think he is a phony. I think Urban Meyer is a fraud. I don't think he belongs in the NFL. And because of that, I think that James Robinson is a middling RB2 and not an RB1, unfortunately, because Carlos Hyde is getting like 50% of the carries. He shouldn't. If we had rational coaches, he wouldn't. But the reality we live in is often cruel.
I said there's a possibility. I'm not going to write it off completely. It's trending downward for sure. The fact that it's a committee now with Carlos Hyde. But you know what? Maybe week 2, if maybe Robinson does have a big game, and we're back here next week thinking, oh, Robinson's back. So I don't want to rule it out, but if I had to bet on it, I would say no, because like you said, like Urban Meyer just doesn't like James Robinson. He tried to phase him out by drafting ATN, and then brings in Carlos Hyde, his Ohio State buddy. So
yeah, and this is one thing that's always a fantasy rule is don't overreact to week 1. Okay, I'm just putting it out there. I do understand that everybody hates Meyer because he doesn't know what he's doing. So with that in mind and his love of Hyde, it's frustrating. However, I think that they really need to establish a run in order for Trevor Lawrence to be able to get those shots that he's wanting, the better targets, the more being able to actually have a game script that works in your favor is what's going to determine his success. So that's my insight on Robinson. The guy is great when it comes to breaking off a play. So if he can do that and really show and help Trevor Lawrence, it's going to end up being huge for the team as a whole.
Against top 2 defenses, Denver and Washington, Daniel Jones has put up an average of 24.43 points. Wow. Daniel Jones, QB1?
Were we getting stats from our overlords? Is what's happening now?
Yeah.
Too much oversight. Tell him to go away.
Of course, they're Daniel Jones stats too.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That's very on brand.
Important Nonsense does quite like Daniel Jones, but we'll move on here to the headlines. We've got the 49ers where head coach Kyle Shanahan, he's saying Brandon Ayuk, he actually would have got his spot completely back if not for a hamstring injury before the team's final preseason game. But we also heard him say earlier this week that he'll get his job back when he earns it and that Trent Sherfield has earned more snaps. So is Kyle Shanahan just a big stinking liar? He also says that you get a big reaction and things are a bigger deal because of fantasy football, which is true. And it should be a big deal. And it's a problem that you're doing this to us, Kyle Shanahan. So what are we doing with the 49ers receivers here?
Well, Kyle Shanahan also said it's not personal, but I felt pretty personally offended by it. Shout out to Jason, though. Yeah, he called the Deebo Samuel last week on the show, and he got it right. Sadly, it was at the expense of Ayuk. I think I saw today that Ayuk or Shanahan hinted that Ayuk can get back to the starter. Don't drop him. Don't be that guy. I'm sure that there's probably a couple leagues out there that somebody just dropped Ayuk. So Jason dropped Ayuk. That doesn't surprise me. Jason, you just said don't overreact week 1.
I'm not. I'm overreacting to the offseason because I never liked Ayuk. So the fact that he was behind Trent is terrifying to me. And especially since Deebo is just a better wide receiver and there's not enough targets. It's going to be Kittle, Deebo, and both of them are going behind whoever the running backs are. So it doesn't matter.
And speaking of whoever the running backs are, Raheem Mostert is out for the season with a knee injury. So Trey Sermon's going to be active this game. Trey Sermon was inactive behind Elijah Mitchell, who went for over 100 yards against who did the 49ers play again last week? The Lions.
I don't know how.
Come on now.
I blocked that out of my memory.
Yeah, you've been talking too much about the Lions that you just you have to have a break.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, he rushed for over 100 yards against the Lions. JaMychal Hasty scored a touchdown as well against the Lions. And then Trenton Cannon was signed or claimed off of waivers. So what can we expect out of this Shanahan's backfield?
So it's definitely a week per week thing. Mm-hmm. You have to see what happens in the game before you make any decisions. So obviously, you have to believe that Elijah Mitchell will lead the 49ers in touches from the backfield against the Eagles, but you never know. It's hard to justify playing Sermon, especially that he was just inactive the week before. I mean, he could end up having a stat line like Elijah Mitchell, but do you really want to make that bet on that? You want to put him in your flex and have it just blow up in your face? I know Jason probably will, but I if you're going to play one of them, it has to be Elijah Mitchell. It just has to be.
No, my thing is any player that is going to get 10 plus touches as a running back in the 49ers offense is going to have success. The problem is I don't care which one it is. I'm not going to have him on my bench. The headache that it brings isn't worth it to me. That's my issue. I think it's Mitchell this week for sure, but is it going to be the week after that? And until Wilson gets back, that's going to be the one that I will target because Wilson is going to be the guy when he comes back. I don't care what anybody says. His yards per carry and his knowledge of the offense is going to push him ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, I am a big Elijah Mitchell fan. I have ever since he was coming out of Louisiana Lafayette, the Raging Cajuns. I was a big fan because he's a super explosive athlete. He's a better athlete than Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon is just a not so fast. He's got a lot of explosiveness in the broad jump and stuff, but I don't know. I think if there's a Raheem Mostert in this backfield, it's going to be Elijah Mitchell. But we do have another question: Big Ben or Sam Darnold this week? Big Ben faces off against the Las Vegas Raiders, and Sam Darnold and the Carolina Panthers will be facing off against the New Orleans Saints. So, what are we thinking here?
It's Big Ben. Yeah, it's definitely Big Ben because one, he's at home, which is a huge thing for him. He loves his road home splits. So I'm definitely playing Ben against the matchup, and I think Darnold would be fine. It's just not somebody that I'm willing to roll out there.
Yeah, and we're actually just about to touch on this, how Darnold's playing the Saints. They're going to be, Marshall Lattimore, game time decision, Quan Alexander, and Marcus Davenport on IR. So, that looks good for the Panthers offense, but it was a little disappointing. They only put up 19 points against the Jets. Jets defense is not very good. I don't think they're going to be very good this year. Even with Saleh, I think another, a defensive-minded coach definitely going to help, but I still think they'll struggle. So, and look what they did to Rodgers. And you can tell me Rodgers didn't care, whatever. They still limited the Packers offense to 3 points. So all saying that, I probably will go Big Ben. I don't like either of them, but Big Ben against the Raiders defense that's not good, I think is the better option.
All right, I agree with that. I think we're going with Big Ben Roethlisberger because the Raiders defense did not look very good. The Saints defense did look better. Now another question. We've got Joe Burrow in the Cincinnati Bengals against the Chicago Bears in Chicago. We've got Jameis Winston, who we've already talked about, visiting the Carolina Panthers, or we've got Teddy Bridgewater and the Denver Broncos facing off against who are the Broncos facing off against this week?
Jaguars.
Jaguars, right. It doesn't matter. I am going with Jameis Winston either way because he is looking like an MVP candidate. He has completely resurged. I love Jameis Winston right now. Who knew all you need to do to be a good NFL quarterback is get LASIK? Maybe I should do that.
I'm going to go with Joe Burrow because, what I saw from the Bears defense, I was right, they didn't look good. They are a shell of their old self. And Burrow looked really good against the Vikings, and I think he'll continue that. I'm going to go with Burrow.
Yeah, and I'm also going to go with Burrow because I like his weapons so much more. And I just think it's going to be harder for the other two, with Winston not knowing who to throw to still. Troutman had the most targets on the team, which is very confusing considering he did score the touchdown. Juwan gets 2 of them. And then Deontay Harris blows past everybody for the biggest touchdown. Since Drew Brees has been there, it was over 50 air yards, which is not something that happened the entire time Drew Brees was at the Saints. So it's some kind of fun, but still, it's Burrow for me.
I get that. Burrow is the safer option, but I just think Jameis Winston is just unbelievable. But Josu says, gracias. I say de nada.
De nada.
Thank you for tuning into the show. And we are back on track, but feel free to keep asking us questions. We will happily interrupt the show to answer your questions because I'm just talking nonsense at this point. Zadarius Smith, he's out for the Packers. That doesn't really hurt or help the Lions too much. It's going to be a lot of points probably going to be scored in that game either way.
Well, actually, it might hurt a little less for the Lions, but
it's this true.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it might hurt a little bit less. Xavier Rhodes is out for the Colts, and as our resident Indianapolis fan, how are we feeling here, Jordan?
How am I feeling? Play your Rams wide receivers. That's how I'm feeling. I don't know. I know Jason said he hates Cooper Kupp. I don't think Cooper Kupp, depending on where they put him, if they throw him outside, that's good. But if they keep him in, if he's still in the slot, he's going to have a tough time with Kenny Moore, who's the only quarterback or corner on this roster that's worth his salt. So, but I'm sure that McVay's smart enough to put Kupp in situations to succeed. But yeah, play your Rams wide receivers. I don't know about Deshaun Jackson or Van Jefferson, even though Van Jefferson looked good last week. And also, Braden Smith's out, the right tackle. So I guess we had another week of sending our prayers to Carson Wentz. Yeah.
Well, he also doesn't know who to throw to, so that doesn't help Wentz either. I mean, He doesn't realize who his target should be, and
It's Zach Pascal now. You know
that's unfortunate. Yeah, I don't want it to be
unfortunate.
Pascal.
Zach Pascal, man. That guy is
just a guy. You're correct.
No, he's not just a guy. He's not Mo Ali Cox.
Absolutely
is just
a jag.
guy.
Oh,
Mo Ali
you mean the
Cox.
basketball player? Come on, let him just dunk on everybody. Let's go.
Speaking of offensive line injuries, Brian Bulaga is on the short-term injured reserve for the LA Chargers. That's going to hurt Justin Herbert in his bid for the MVP, which I think he's going to do. But at least they have a quality backup in the former XFL MVP offensive lineman, Storm Norton. So it's not completely terrible. There's teams that would be completely derailed by losing their offensive tackle, like the Baltimore Ravens, who will be without Ronnie Stanley, their left tackle.
Wait. So what about they have Villanueva though, right?
Villanueva is going to move from the right.
I mean, there wasn't any bad videos on Twitter showing him playing offensive line. Sorry, I can't even get through that. They're laughing. That's funny.
Maybe Villanueva plays better on the left side, but it doesn't change the fact that Patrick McCarry, a left tackle in college who's been the backup center in the NFL, is now playing right tackle. And the Ravens just have way too many injuries. And
just sign Mitchell Schwartz. They really need to.
Yeah.
Be perfect fit for them, honestly.
You guys are missing the perfect joke here, though. You just said Storm, and it's the Bolts. Come on, you have to put them together. Storm Norton's going to have a huge day. It just says how that's going to work out. Don't worry about it.
Jason, I'm not a humorous person. I don't make jokes. How was I
Oh,
supposed to
that was right up your alley. Give him a Bolt. It'll be fine.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, we're going to move on to some running back talk here where Josh Jacobs is out with a toe and ankle injury. So Kenyon Drake, is he a thing? The Raiders lost right guard Denzel Good to a torn ACL. Their left guard, Richie Incognito, is looking like he's going to miss the game as well. So John Simpson's going to start again, and Jermaine Illuminor is going to be the other fill-in. So they're down to their third and fourth guards. Can we even trust Kenyon Drake?
No, because we are trusting Peyton Barber, according to John Gruden. And Jason, I know that you love this, so please let us know.
Why? I don't understand what it is with Gruden and just hating everybody. We'll just throw this random old guy in and be completely fine. When you have a perfectly good back in Jacobs, he was. This injury from last year, I think, is the one who's really affecting him. His foot issue is not something that should be overlooked because the fact that he was changing socks, changing wraps, changing shoes, that's an issue. And I don't care what they say. A foot injury is something that's going to last him throughout the year. So if they don't rest him, he's going to be in big trouble. And Kenyon Drake's going to be the one who ends up carrying the load, as he should, because Barber is not good. Did we forget this? Is Gruden just crazy? Granted, it doesn't matter because he's going to throw to Waller, who's clearly the best player on the team. So running back isn't important, but if you have to, I'm fine rolling him out there. If you have like somebody, for example, Tyson Williams, maybe that'd be a similar comparison, but I think Drake's going to get more work. So I'm going with Drake.
Well, and like if they're going to use Drake like they did last week, and Peyton Barber's going to take the Josh Jacobs role, I think he's going to be relevant. Especially in PPR because that's what they're using him for. They're using him. He's running routes. I don't know how many. I have to check, but he definitely was out carried by Jacobs. But yeah, I think that there's some appeal there for sure.
All right, and this brings us to our next topic, which is the perfect time for this question. So DeAndre Swift limited in practice with a groin injury, and now Scott Laframboise is wondering, with the injuries to Swift, would you guys start Singletary? And I'm here to say absolutely not. So the reason that DeAndre Swift is kind of laid up in practice is from the summer injury with the hip. He is completely fine. You don't have to actually worry about him. They're just taking it easy with him. They're not overworking him because they know he is the star player on their team. The Lions are just managing their bell cow. I would absolutely be starting DeAndre Swift no matter what. He is he was top 4 running back last year in PPR leagues. He has the chance to be even greater this week against a sieve of a Packers defense.
Yeah, I wouldn't even bench Swift, but not even for Singletary, especially when we're going to get into it right now that Moss may be back. So, I mean, that's risky.
And that's where your issue comes in. If Moss wasn't there, I might be okay doing it. But since he's not, and the fact that Swift was so effective, Swift and Jamal were excellent. And I think Jamal is one of the guys who's a complete locker room guy and is just a huge benefit. And so him getting the playing time and really helping out the team, I'd much rather go with Swift because I think they both are going to be great. Speaking of Drake, though, he actually had 5 receptions for 59 yards and actually had 6 carries while Jacobs had 10. So it's a pretty good split. And so even then, I think he's
so
a solid
exactly.
option.
And if Jacobs out and they're really going to be relying on Peyton Barber, then for sure, I think that Drake is a really good start, especially against Pittsburgh.
And so it's kind of perfect that the question was about Devin Singletary too, because the next point on our little show sheet here was Zach Moss. Apparently he was only inactive due to the health concerns. He did hurt his hamstring and was working his way back. Apparently he was healthy enough to play last week, but they didn't want to risk it. It sounds like he's looked good in practice this week. It sounds like Zach Moss might be playing, and that's not good news for Devin Singletary. So yes, absolutely DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, pray to whatever deity you believe in that Moss can make it into the lineup and play well, because I have a lot invested in him, and I'm really upset that was just thrown at us like 2 hours for game. I didn't have him starting, but I mean it just took a hit to my depth and made me very worried about some of my teams now.
Yeah, and if you didn't hear Steve's show on Wednesday, man, he was all upset about it. It ruined his Sunday coming up to see that Moss was inactive already.
Well, he had him on his card. He had him on his
parlay card.
Yeah, his parlay card was 6 attempts for 11 yards. That is a little worrisome, but like I said, I mean 5 receptions for 59 yards. That's pretty good for a PPR league. Like that's decent. Obviously, you would want better. Maybe a touchdown mixed in, but
10.9 yards, right? Or 10.9 points.
Yeah, exactly. And then you mix in a touchdown there. You got it.
Fantasy Life fam or Life app fam, stand up, please. And will the real Denver Broncos running back please stand up? Because
Melvin Gordon, let's go.
They split it right down the middle. Javonte Williams actually had one more touch overall than Melvin Gordon, but Gordon had the carries.
Gordon had the high value carries. That's what really matters here. So in games that is competitive and that they have to use him, he's going to be the guy that's in there because he is that veteran presence. But game got out of control and they were able to use Williams to get him more reps, and that's great for him. I think it again happens this week because it's going to be a similar situation.
Yeah, and especially going against a Jaguars team that gave 26 carries to Mark Ingram. So I think there's opportunity for both of them this week.
Oh, it's going to be brutal.
Yeah, it is going to be brutal. Speaking of Mark Ingram, we playing Mark Ingram?
Yeah. I mean, he's going to be the guy in Houston. So if you're really just out of luck and let's see, if it's between like him and White and Standard, I'm probably going to play Ingram. Yeah.
I mean, if you have a gun to your head and the assailant's like, you have to play a Texas running back or I'm going to shoot you, then yeah, you probably have to go Ingram. But I just wouldn't play one this week because they're not playing the Jaguars and they're playing the Browns. And I just can't see Ingram getting 26 carries again. I just can't.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well. And so one final question on running backs. We have been taking way too much time on this. We're going to have to move on to get to Jason's trust or bust section, but
not important.
Okay. Well,
that's your segment, man.
These guys are more important. This is what's making our money right
Jason,
here.
you're a man of the people. I appreciate
all right. Well, we'll continue along the list then. And if we get to the trust or bust, we will. But really important question right here. Bruce Arians says that Ronald Jones is the starter. But you know who else is the starter? Leonard Fournette. And you know who else is the starter? Giovanni Bernard. They are all starters per Bruce Arians. What the friggin' heck?
I've already hitched my wagon to the Leonard Fournette hype train. I've said it before in the show, so that's my guy.
Yeah, only because he's catching passes right now, and he seems to be the clear guy. I really do think that Jones gets some good run this week. So I could see going either one of those two. But until Gio is healthy, there's no way I'm starting him. I mean, he looked so bad last week, and he's still clearly recovering. It's not somebody I'm interested in right now. So it looks like a clear split between Jones and Fournette moving forward.
Yeah, just mention like what Jason just said. Garbage time yards for sure. Like I could see Rojo actually having a big week because of that, just because
he's hitting the 100-yard mark, baby.
Buccaneers could be up big by the fourth, and they'll just try to salt the clock down. So.
All right. And my personal opinion is that targets are a skill. Targets are earned. Ronald Jones does not earn targets. Giovanni Bernard earned 3 targets. Leonard Fournette earned 7 targets, which was the same amount as Antonio Brown. This is a good thing. This is why you start Uncle Len, Lombardi Len, Leonard Fournette. Now to the Arizona Cardinals. Chase Edmonds and James Conner. What do we think is going on here?
That it seems like a committee. I like Edmonds better in PPR because he's getting receptions, and both could be, especially Edmonds. But I even think Connor could be worth starting against Vikings defense. Gave up 150 scrimmage yards to Mixon, and I don't know. We'll see. Like that's it. That's what I got from week 1.
Again, I'm looking at the quality of the rushing attempts, and Edmonds got the ones that mattered. So I appreciate that Connor did a good job, but Edmonds is the guy that you want here, and it's not close to me.
Jason, it was down like 16 touches apiece for each. You're not worried about.
Not even kind of.
All right.
Edmonds is so much better, and it's obvious. Granted, they're going to run a lot of plays, so I can see Connor getting lucky occasionally and being one of the guys who falls into the end zone because he's known for doing that on occasion. But it's definitely the Edmonds guy here. What the?
Now, Steve's coming in with some information, but no, I completely agree. Chase Edmonds drew 4 targets and James Conner drew none because James Conner is a bad pass catcher. And really, James Conner hammered the game home at the end. That's partially why that they ended up tying in terms of touches in total. And James Conner, like even in a blowout, he couldn't ball out. He couldn't really do much in a blowout. So yeah, it's Chase Edmonds. Just imagine when it becomes a shootout like it could be this week. Just think about the ceiling for Chase Edmonds. It could be the ceiling is the roof.
Yeah, and I mean Edmonds also averaged 2 yards per carry more than Connor. So it's 2 very different running styles for sure.
Yeah.
There we go.
Steve just said 58% for Edmonds, 49% for Connor.
Oh, he must have been split out wide too. They must have both been playing.
It's a thing of 9%. Like I'll have to see future games for the Cardinals, see what they do with that backfield. Obviously, Edmonds is the guy that you want, but I'm saying Connor might have an impact in the backfield. Might be the goal line back. Who knows?
All right. And now we've got the Cincinnati Bengals facing off against the Chicago Bears. We've talked about this already, but there's a big question on everyone's mind. Is David Montgomery actually good? Is he officially good? Is he officially a star? And what about Joe Mixon? Is he better than Joe Mixon? Because they're facing off head-to-head in week 2.
Monty is my guy. I love Monty.
Ooh.
Don't count out Damian Williams, though. Damian Williams did a lot with the carries that he received and probably will until Tariq Cohen comes back. He was the only – so Montgomery and the one Fields touchdown were the only bright spots on the Chicago offense. They looked – I wouldn't even say bad. They just looked like dead. Like they just – Dalton didn't throw the ball like – farther than 10 yards at all, it didn't seem like. And they just dinked and dunked their way up the field the whole time. So, I mean, I hope that works out for Montgomery, that Montgomery is like leaned on for offensive production, but like just put Fields in. Like start him yesterday. They should have started him yesterday. Named him the starter yesterday. Like this is egregious.
Yeah, no, my thing here is volume. That's the key word between these two backs. Joe Mixon's going to have the volume. They literally have nobody back there that I'm interested in. And I'm actually worried about David Montgomery holding up for the entirety of the season. I think that they're going to use Damian Williams, who's a very good back. Granted, he did take last year off. And the fact that Cohen's been injured and he's slowly going to come on, I think that'll help take away and keep Montgomery healthy throughout the season. But Montgomery does look a lot better. And this is from a guy who hated Joe Mixon last year because he wasn't going to get enough. And now he's going to get all the volume that he needs to be very good, and I'm pumped for it.
Yeah, and you have to remember with the thing with David Montgomery is Damian Williams drew 5 targets and David Montgomery drew 1. The Bears clearly want to use Damian Williams as a passing down back. He ends up running 20 routes to David Montgomery's 20 routes. They're splitting this receiving work down the middle. Joe Mixon is not splitting that work with anybody. Absolutely, we're going with Joe Mixon. And the Bengals defense allowed 90-plus total yards to a running back in 14 of their last 17 games. So maybe we are a pro David Montgomery, but I'm going with Joe Mixon here. Is A-Rob the second tradable? I think you should trade for him.
Yes, that perfect buy low target, absolutely. Because hopefully when Fields comes in, they can both go to the moon.
Yeah, I think he's actually thinking it's the other way. Is
I
he
think
able
that
to be
is the
traded?
question.
Yeah. So with that in mind, it really depends on what you're getting back, because you want somebody that is probably younger and is still the leader in the house. So I'm thinking like Jamar Chase or T. Higgins plus a running back, because those seem to be in dwindling supply and will have more value going long run. So if you're trading him away, that would be how I'd go with it. If you're getting him, or if you're trading for him, that's probably what it's going to take. So I guess I landed on both that, right? That worked out.
You're definitely got to take a haircut, because I don't think anyone's going to give you someone like Jamar Chase, especially after the week you just had. I would hold on to Allen Robinson. I would wait. It sucked. Trust me. I just went on a rant about it. But hopefully Fields is in sooner than later, and A-Rob can get back to where he was drafted. And the receiver he is, man. He's one of the best receivers in the league, and this guy has been treated so poorly in his whole career.
Yeah, I completely agree. Allen Robinson deserves way better, and he will get way better eventually. So if you were to trade him now, you'd kind of be getting rid of him at his floor value. It's all up from here. Like, it can only go up from here when Justin Fields comes in. And so are we panicking on James Robinson? We've kind of talked about
we already answered that.
But the answer is yes.
A little.
Justin.
We're a little nervous on it.
It's warm. It is warm in James Robinson land.
Yeah, it is warm. Let us know who you're considering playing against or playing instead of him. Do not trade for him. Definitely don't do that. So if you can give us some more information, Justin, we will be happy to help you out with your James Robinson dilemma, because I'm panicking pretty hard. And I'm a little bit, sorry, guys, late. That's okay. You don't have to apologize.
Yeah, thanks for joining.
Yeah, we're just happy to have you here. And Odell Beckham, I'm a little bit worried about it. Odell was limited with a knee, Odell is out with a knee injury. Anthony Schwartz is limited with a knee injury, but no one is actually worried about him. And Anthony Schwartz, the rookie third-round pick, the Olympic caliber sprinter, he ends up with 5 targets, 3 receptions, 69 yards, then gets another carry for 17 yards, 86-yard day from the rookie. Does he have a chance to go off this week?
I think yes, but I really think that it's going to be more focused on the veteran in the wide receiver group in Landry for sure. I'm a big fan of Schwartz. I thought his tape looked great when he was just getting drafted. So when he went here, I was just hoping and praying that they'd get rid of Odell. It didn't happen. So with that in mind, he's definitely somebody that you want in Dynasty for sure, because I think he's going to be the guy who really shows up here in the near future as a huge target for the Browns.
Yeah, I think Schwartz can definitely have a big week, but like Jason said, so could Landry. And the fact that they're getting rushing attempts, like Landry had 2 rushing attempts, one was a touchdown. So they utilize their wide receivers in the run game as well.
Well, they use him every way. At one point, Landry was a quarterback last year.
Exactly. So I don't think it's gonna happen with Schwartz, but I think that against the Texans, without Odell, I think Schwartz could definitely make an impact.
Yeah, me as well. And unfortunately, Will Fuller will not make an impact because he will miss week 2 with a personal issue. The head coach Brian Flores wouldn't say anything more than that. He didn't want to allude to anything. And so last week with Will Fuller on suspension, we saw Devontae Parker. He had 4 receptions on 7 targets and 61 yards. Jalen Waddle tied him with 61 yards, but Waddle did it on 4 grabs, 5 targets. And fun fact, Henry Ruggs II has never had a 4-reception game in his entire life. He's only topped 61 yards 3 times. Jalen Waddle is already better than Henry Ruggs, and that is a fact. Also, Mike Gesicki, he had no receptions on 2 targets. Albert Wilson, no receptions on 2 targets. So yes, it's not looking great in Miami without Will Fuller, except for Jalen Waddle. The kid kind of looks like a star.
Yeah, and the fact that he's already getting and creeping up on Parker is a huge surprise. Not really. Haha. He is the guy who's clearly going to be the 2. We've been saying it all offseason that Waddle's just a better wide receiver, and we were really worried that he was just going to be the second fiddle to Fuller. Well, he's definitely going to surpass Parker quickly if Parker doesn't get it in gear. So let's Waddle on past him, and let's get going with Waddle for sure.
Waddle on past him.
You love it. You love it.
So crack a bottle, play Jalen Waddle, as the great Eminem once said.
Perfect.
All right, this is a big question
Let your
for
body
Jason
wobble.
here. The game of the week, perhaps, is the Dallas Cowboys versus the Los Angeles Chargers. It is going to be a shootout. I don't know if anyone can cover the opposing team's receivers. It's going to be a clinic of wide receiver play. And so last week, Keenan Allen, 9 receptions for 100 yards on 12 targets. Mike Williams, he also gets 12 targets, goes for 9 receptions, over 80 yards, and a touchdown. And then Amari Cooper, he balls out as well. 17 targets. That was ridiculous. 13 receptions. That was amazing. 139 yards and 2 touchdowns. Amari Cooper looks like the wide receiver 1 in Dallas, but CeeDee Lamb, no slouch either. 15 targets. He only catches 7 of them, which isn't great. He had some rough hands early in the game, but he rebounded for 104 yards and a touchdown. So who are we in this matchup?
Absolutely everyone. You play anybody that you can to start in this game.
So,
I am
Austin Eckler?
Josh Palmer, KJ Hill?
Yes.
Jalen Guyton?
I really wish you're looking at the big guys. You have Williams, you have Allen. You're probably playing Eckler. I'm actually going to probably say that you don't want Zeke just because he's not used in the passing game, which is really frustrating to me. But if he was used in the passing game, he'd also be a huge asset here. And the Chargers are really bad against run. So I don't understand. But again, we're going to focus on the fact that the pass catchers are the ones to own here. This is going to be a high scoring game. I think they had it at 55 at the over-under, and I think they're going over, and it's not even close. I would be surprised if they're not over 70. I am pumped for this game.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Except for the Ezekiel, I still play Zeke just because I'm not going to let week 1, change my opinion on Zeke. I still think that he'll be relevant. Who knows if it starts in this game?
Whoa.
Yeah, my goodness.
Dak
a stat.
Prescott has averaged 418.6 pass yards in his last 5
Holy
full
cow.
games. Because Dak Prescott is a damn star.
That's pretty good.
Woo.
He plays for the star.
Well, and even more importantly, is it's going to happen again next week for the Chargers, because guess who they play next week?
KC?
It's the Chiefs. Let's go. This is going to be such a fun game in Kansas City. Woo. I'm ready for it.
Well, in the meantime, the Baltimore Ravens will be facing off against Kansas City in the Sammy Watkins revenge game.
Oh, poor Sammy.
Is he going to go off against Kansas City? Is there a chance Le'Veon Bell is activated and he gets a double revenge game? And more importantly, in Kansas City, is it just Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce? Because Mecole Hardman doesn't seem to matter at all.
Well, you actually missed one. It's a triple revenge game. Orlando Brown Jr.
Oh, yeah. They traded for him, right?
They did. So for Sammy Watkins, he was the most targeted Ravens receiver. So there's definitely a chance that he could have a big game. Didn't have his usual week 1 outburst, but maybe he's saving it for this game. And as for the Chiefs receivers besides the big 2, it doesn't seem like there's one. I think we always ask who's the third one. It's nobody.
I actually think in this game it's going to be CEH, because that's one area
that's the only other one that I would consider. But you're not putting him in your lineups for the targets he's getting. You're getting it because he'll get probably the bulk of the carries in the backfield, and anything else is great because you have Patrick Mahomes. But in terms of actual pass catchers, there isn't one. If Mecole Hardman's not doing anything, I mean Byron Pringle maybe once every so often he'll get a touchdown, maybe a big game. I don't know.
Yeah, I like CEH just because of the fact that you saw how Drake did. If you move that into this game, it should end up with a touchdown or over 50 yards receiving, which I'm here for.
All right. One final question on the receivers before we move to tight end. We've had some great questions here tonight, and it's been a lot of fun. Thank you all for tuning in. And so next up, we have KJ Hamler or Tim Patrick. Who is the wide receiver 2 in Denver? And you can't say Noah Fant because he is the wide receiver 2.
That was my answer.
I know it was.
See, I wanted to be Tim Patrick because he's shown success in the past, and KJ Hamler, is coming to his second year. You guys mentioned this on the Wednesday show that Tim Patrick's the safe option, KJ Hamler's the home run threat. So I am pretty safe. So I would think it's Patrick. I wouldn't play any. Actually, I have to play Hamler in one of my leagues, but if you're a normal person that plays in normal leagues, I would kind of stay away and see how the game against the Jaguars goes. But if you have to pick one, probably Patrick's the safer option.
Yeah, I agree with Jordan on this. It's Patrick for me. I just think he gets more targets in general. I do think Sutton's going to be the one who really comes away with it. That doesn't surprise me either.
See, I didn't even mention DeMarcus Robinson. He played more snaps than Hardman.
But I think Hardman was actually targeted more, if I remember correctly. So
neither of
for
them.
what it's worth.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
See, I'm going to argue with guys, though, because KJ Hamler, he has the game-breaking 4.3 speed. He just needs one reception to turn in a beautiful fantasy day. So, yes, you're going to take some L's with him in terms of the stat book, but there's a chance that he wins you the week by yourself. He could be a Deshaun Jackson type, and there's a good chance he's going to be playing in the slot a lot more with Jerry Jeudy out. So
that's a good point.
That's my guy, though. I've liked KJ Hamler.
I told you I'm starting Hamler this week, so I hope you're right.
Well, we're going to move into tight ends because you're about to poo-poo on one of my favorite players, and it's really frustrating.
Ooh, Donald Parham?
No, I wish. I wish he was doing that right now because the guy he's bringing up is really frustrating to me.
Is it Pharaoh Brown?
It is.
Why do you like Pharaoh Brown?
Did you see the number of targets that he got in week 1?
I don't.
As a rookie.
He is not a rookie.
He counts to me.
He is a second year. Or
still counts. You know as well as I do, a real rookie starts their second year, and this is how it's turning out for him. He's making Akins just look bad.
Because Akins is bad, and so is Pharaoh Brown. He's just a large, sloppy man. Oh boy! All right,
Mo Alley Cox, let's go.
He is not
on a team
sloppy.
that actually has to throw. Let's go. I'm here for it.
All right,
you can have Mo Alley Cox.
Back on track. Pharaoh Brown sidelined Thursday with ankle and shoulder injuries, and you never should have thought about starting Pharaoh Brown. I think he is bad. He is not an athlete, and this just confirms you cannot start him this week.
Nope, just because of the targets. That's the whole reason I like him. He had enough targets, and with that, he put him over 10 points. I think he had 10.4 fantasy points, which is awesome.
He had 10.7, but he had the same amount of targets as Danny Amendola.
Still counts.
Oh, well.
All right.
Do you think the Houston's defense is going to stop somebody, and they're not going to have to throw? Because if so, you're delusional.
Jason, I am not co-signing any of your Pharaoh Brown nonsense.
Don't hate on Pharaoh.
All right, big question here. Is Najee Harris and DJ Chark or Tyler Boyd for Saquon Barkley a good trade in PPR?
I don't sell Najee Harris, especially if you're gonna get Barkley. Because we don't know if Barkley is going to, get back to where he was. I think he will, but that's a little risky. And Najee Harris, how many snaps did he play against the Bills?
100%.
All of them.
Yeah, 100%.
So he's going to get volume, and volume is king. So no, don't. I think it's a fair trade. I don't think it's a good trade. I would hang on to Najee Harris.
Yeah, I'm taking the Najee Harris side, especially because DJ Chark is the wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville. He had 12 targets.
For now, when targets, yes. I think Chenault's going to end up being the guy that you really want there, but oh, baby, look at that number. Thank you. Okay. I love it. But
you're just riling up Jason with the Pharaoh Brown stats.
He knows I'm right, and he loves every second of it. But it's Harris and Boyd that you want to get rid of here, just because we don't know if somebody else is going to start up for behind Chark. I mean, if Chark's going to be the guy, then you kind of want him there because just target volume. You get 12 targets and you catch 8 of them. You already have 8 points, and any yards on top of that is bonus. So theoretically, with him, I think he averages 8.6. So you're already looking at 64 yards and you're at like 14 points, which is awesome for a wide receiver.
I would hold. I would just, I think it's too early to trade guys that you drafted for a second round.
Yeah.
Completely agree with that. And we'll go through tight ends pretty rapid fire here. TJ Hawkinson or George Kittle?
Hawkinson.
Yeah, I'd say Hawkinson.
Just because of volume.
And I think we skipped over it. Tyrell Williams is out this week, and who are they going to throw to? Amon-Ra St. Brown? Maybe.
He did. Jared Goff did miss him on a touchdown, which was pretty disappointing.
Yeah. And I mean, Kittle's got more competition for targets. Hey, Kittle's a beast, don't get me wrong, but this
is going to be a bounce back for Kittle, but it's still going to be Hawkinson.
I'm going Hawkinson.
Is Kyle Pitts done for? Is his rookie season over?
No, it's week 1, but I will say a stat that I found fascinating. He was the only offensive skill player drafted in the top 15 in this year's draft to not score a touchdown.
Ooh.
I
Unreal.
like that. He was a second in targets on the team, which I really loved behind Ridley. I just wish Ryan could figure out what's going on, or if it's an OC issue. I'm not quite sure there.
I just want to say this quickly. I was going to mention this off the top, forgot. Matt Ryan on my fantasy grudge list after week 1. He screwed me.
Sorry.
He screwed me in our important nonsense DraftKings league.
He's never had that issue. It's so weird.
If you look at my score, it's embarrassing. I was all in on the Falcons and I got absolutely embarrassed. I'm so angry. And I'm gonna have to play him this week. So thanks, Matt Ryan. You ruined my year.
I really think it's an OC because even when they were down, they continued to run the ball with Davis, which is just mind blowing to me.
You know who else they were running the ball with? Cordell Patterson. So
I know, and he looked good. You remember when I said he was a RB2? Like
I didn't dispute that after when they got rid of Olsen. I'm like, it has to be that Gallman was inactive, so it had to be Patterson.
Well, speaking of switching positions, we've got Juwan Johnson versus Adam Troutman. Adam Troutman is the blocking tight end. Juwan Johnson, the receiving tight end with 2 touchdown receptions. Who are we trusting going forward?
Yeah, had to give you your golf clap on that transition there, Jack. And it's Troutman for me in any PPR because of the fact that he saw the most targets on the team. I mean,
I love Jason.
But like I said, I got Juwan last week because of the 2 touchdowns. So I'm perfectly fine with him being the end zone guy. But if you're looking at targets, it's Troutman for sure.
Yeah, and Jason, you're right. Jason called Juwan Johnson last week, so kudos to him. I'm going to agree. You know, the 2 touchdowns is obviously nice, but yeah, Troutman had the most targets. So,
granted, Callaway also had Jair Alexander on him. Yeah. So something to keep in mind if you're thinking about playing Callaway is that he had a really good defender on him.
For me, I'm going to give Troutman the slight edge.
Yeah, he's going to be on the field a lot more because he can block. Yes, he's going to pass block more, but he's going to be on the field more. That means he's going to see more routes run in general. And go with Adam Troutman. He dominated at Dayton. Yes, it's a small school, but I'm still in on Adam Troutman. And so final question of the evening, unless anyone in the audience has any questions for us, make sure you get those in real quick. But otherwise, is David Njoku finally breaking out?
No, like it's week 1. Don't overreact. You know, they have Austin Hooper, they have Harrison Bryant. Could just be a 1-week thing. And let's be honest, the Browns don't throw the ball that much. They have a great running game they can rely on. So I don't think so. For me, I think it's a fluke. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you saw all of them get targets. So I was hoping it was Hooper because he's the veteran on the team, and Njoku has just shown that he's so bad. Like, I don't understand why they keep using him. So I really wish it was Hooper. It's clearly not. They're going to spread around to all 3 of them. Oh, wow. Wow. See? Pharaoh Brown, 76. Troutman, 82. That's pretty awesome.
That's why, you know what? That's why we have the important nonsense overlords looking over to let us know.
They just make me nervous.
Yeah, so I mean that pretty much solidifies it. So like I didn't realize it was that much of a disparity. My goodness.
Yeah, Adam Troutman played 82% of the snaps compared to Juwan Johnson's 19%.
Incredible.
Yeah, those must have been just near the end zone then that he was in on because wow.
Yeah,
that must be a pretty high. I wonder what
there's value in that though. Like if we see that going forward, I mean, like
Juwan Johnson, to be the Cook role, right? Like maybe that's what he is he's.
I don't think that was all Cook's role, but it might be more Josh Hill. I would feel.
Mm-hmm. Josh Hill.
I think they use Cook all over the field, if I remember correctly.
So maybe he ends up being Troutman.
I think Troutman's Troutman. Troutman's his own person from Dayton.
And then in terms of Cleveland tight end, Austin Hooper, 64% of the snaps, David Njoku, 59%, and Harrison Bryant, 32%.
That's a little less surprising. That makes sense.
David Njoku ran 2 more routes than Austin Hooper.
Yeah, I'm assuming that they were mostly blocking because that's a run-first team. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't really matter that much, unfortunately, because that's who you want on the Browns. Is you want the running backs, clearly.
Yeah, and final question of the night. DeAndre Swift, Antonio Brown, T. Higgins in your flex. We got this question on Twitter earlier. We answered it. Who are you going with?
Well, three great options. Let's be honest. Three three great matchups. I said, and Jack, I'm not going to steal your line, but you're right with your reasoning. It's DeAndre Swift. He's going to get more touches, and we saw last week with the 49ers when they played against 49ers, they threw a lot to Swift to catch up. So I wouldn't worry about him like being, not utilized because they need to throw the ball more. Who are they going to throw the ball to? We just talked about this. It's TJ Hawkinson, it's Swift, and that's about
Williams.
it.
Yeah, a little
But
bit Jamal Williams.
A little bit of Jamal Williams, but Swift is the pass catching running back more so than Williams.
Yeah.
I'll take your word for it. I mean, I'm doing it just because Swift is guaranteed touches, but I'm actually really out on Brown this week, which granted, I know that's surprising to a lot of people since I was so in on him last week. But like I said, I really think they just are able to do a lot with running the ball. And I think Godwin's the guy who gets it first. And I think that they want to get Evans some looks because they really let him down last week and Gronk got all the touchdowns. So I think Evans has a value this week, especially in the red zone.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of running from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I truly believe. And T. Higgins is great, but he's no DeAndre Swift. Swift honestly may out-target T. Higgins just because that's the way the Detroit Lions work. And that's the way we work here on on Friday Night Insights.
F&I, baby. F&I.
Let's go. I love the new rebranding. It works out great for us.
It is a pretty great name. Do you have any pluggables to plug there, Jason?
I keep dropping like little notable things on TikTok, so you can find me everywhere. That FF nerd. Okay, if you want to play video games, I'm on Xbox as that F nerd as well. I mean, I'm down to play. I need more friends to play with. Okay, that's just what it comes down to. I'm too big of a loser. I need more people to play with because otherwise I'm just stuck here looking at fantasy numbers all day, and you don't want that.
Well, we do want that, man. You're the sit start guru. Like, how am I supposed to ask you for advice? You're not looking at your fantasy numbers one week because you're too busy playing Warzone.
I can't help myself. It'll work out. I still answer questions. I was pretty busy on Sunday still.
You are you do a lot of work for the community, and we thank you for that. And I'm sure that most I know that you get some hate, and it's part of the gig, but most people appreciate what you do.
Yeah. Just trying to answer everybody, man. It's been tough on fantasy life. They're trying to get more experts in, and so it'll be interesting to see how that ends up switching and going out because I'm still there a lot and trying to help everybody I can. I try and check in every hour. That's what it comes down to. But Sundays I'm there from 8 until pretty much noon. So,
well, geez Louise, we do appreciate you, and we appreciate you too, Jordan. Do you have any pluggables to plug before we head out?
Yeah, just follow me on Twitter if you haven't at Donald McJordan. Unfortunately, I work Sundays now, so you don't get angry Colts tweets. And I guess I should reference Colts are on Hard Knocks. First in-season Hard Knocks, and the Colts get it. I was going to go on a rant, but I'm not going to. I'm okay with it, but let's just say that there's going to be a lot of distractions if things can go wrong. But yeah, and just look out for the waiver report. Important Nonsense should be up Monday mornings. Keep an eye out for that. It's great writers on the team.
There are great writers everywhere over at importantnonsense.com where you can find all of our work. You can find me every Sunday on the Club Nonsense podcast where we recap the week that was in the NFL. And you can also find me on the Friday Night Insights show every Friday night. You can find me on the Believe in Lions podcast on Wednesday nights as well. You can just find me a lot of places, and you can find me at Javanaugh87 everywhere. So until next week, enjoy yourself. Enjoy week 2 because football is back. Football is great. And it's a beautiful, beautiful time to be alive here. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you. Oh,
you forgot the most important thing. All of our primetime games have been awesome on final score ends. So even like last night, it was on a field goal that ended the game. Monday night, it was a miracle that anybody won that game, but still, it was a last-second win. Just things that we need to appreciate more this year because of COVID and everything else. I am so pumped for football.
Yeah, and as Jason likes to say, let's go watch some football.